Hi, guys. Before we begin the episode, I want to tell you about an amazing website that could help you get your health back. I know that sounds like a big statement to make, and I know a lot of you out there have been concerned about your health, especially with this COVID jab, with the toxicity in there, with the shedding of the COVID vaccine. All of us are concerned. We're seeing people fall ill, die prematurely, and it's really gotten bad. There's a website that could change your life and potentially even save your life. I'm not going to talk too much about it. Just please go on there, watch the videos, sign up to watch the videos, and learn how you could get your health back to the way it was prior to COVID and even better. All right, welcome to the latest episode of Blood Money. Today we have a very special guest, Richard Presser. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing very well, Vim, and
So
thank you for inviting me to join you.
Thank you. Thank you. So, for the viewers out there, the reason we're doing this Blood Money episode is because we're big fans of products that are actually good for our health. You know, for so long, we've been driven by this medical industrial complex. And as the jab has showed us, the medical industrial complex doesn't necessarily have our best interest in mind. So, we've been very curious about holistic products, about alternative products that better our health. And so, Richard here is the distributor of a product called Magic Dicol. And I got to tell you, I've been using this product for just the last 10 days after hearing a lot about it. Actually got my father, who's 81 years old, to actually start using it. And we've already seen a lot of upsides to using this product, but I won't get into my personal story right now. Richard, why don't you take us through the journey of how you got involved with this product and why you feel like this product's important, and especially for this period of time in history?
Happy to. Firstly, let me position the products. The Magic Dicol term is the name of my company. In fact, I have several companies wearing the Magic Dicol name around the world, and we have three products. There's the Nanosoma oral spray, which is the core product, if you will, which you spray in your mouth typically once or several times a day. Then there is the Metasoma topical gel, which is effectively the spray with some edible xanthan gum added to it, and we sell it for topical use. It's a bit more practical to apply. It doesn't run away like water does. And then there is the Metasoma telomerase natural skin cream. And so there's a progression that goes from nanosoma to the gel to the cream in terms of evolutionary development. How I got involved, as I was saying to them before the show, I walk a deeply spiritual path, one that came and found me. And as part of that journey, these beautiful products came into my life. Somebody contacted me. I was in contact with an Indian man living in Canada who we'd had conversations with about, him supplying products to me and I supplying things to him to go into India. And he called me one day and said, "You might be interested in this thing." And he set up an interview, a discussion with the developer, Dr. Raghavan, or just Raghu, who is an organic chemist and is Indian, been living in the States for 40 years and has a history in the pharmaceutical industry. Raghu described his product to me, and I asked him a bunch of questions. And he said, "Yep, does all those things." I was blown away. And so I immediately began to figure out how I could get these beautiful products available to people that I had contact with. And so I started in Australia in December of 2019. And it was a little while later I started in the US. But in my opinion, if you think about the timing, December 2019, it came to me. When did the COVID nonsense start? January of 2020.
Wow.
Cool.
I got to there's a few questions that what you said bring up. Firstly, let's talk about this idea of people suddenly awakening at these very historic periods of time, because it doesn't happen to everybody, but your story I've heard actually before from other individuals that were given ideas, they feel like from a very spiritual place, as to how to combat COVID, so you wouldn't get stuck with the remdesivirs of the world, which we've learned are actually very bad for your health. It's an interesting journey. I mean, do you feel like this was God speaking to you, or how do you interpret this direction that you were clearly put on?
So um, I would use those words. Seeing you've opened this door, I will dive into it briefly. I've come to understand that we are living in a time when the dark, as I would call them, are being removed from all creation and beyond. And I have a role in doing that in simple terms. And so we are living through the crescendo of that clearing process. And so I've been expecting for about 12 years that the dark, as I would call them, would make a grab for complete control of humanity. I didn't know when it would be, but I'm pretty sure it started with the COVID story. And as long as I've understood that they would fail. And we are living through their attempt and also their failure. I believe we are quite close to a moment when humanity in general will become far more aware of what's going on. It doesn't mean everybody will wake up, but the opportunity for anyone to wake up will be there. So again, I don't want to get any deeper than that, but I can go very deep then in terms of what this story is and truly where I walk. And so I feel very blessed, very challenged.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said, these two beautiful product sets came into my life. I didn't go looking for either of them. The beautiful Magic Dicol products and the other DPE products, which are about, frankly, protecting our beautiful planet. And we can talk about that another time if you wish. Pretty extraordinary and pretty necessary technology given the state of the planet at this point.
Yeah.
So I will simply say the particle, I'm now satisfied that the particle that's in these products, which is a nanoparticle of polycosanol, and I'll explain what that is in a moment, but the particle, I'm satisfied, brought the blueprint of biological life to this planet. Now that's a big claim, but I no longer have any doubt about it. And let me just give you a couple of illustrations as to why I say that. Firstly, there is a wonderful master intuitive, as she describes herself, a fellow Aussie, as it turns out. She turned up in one of our early conference calls actually in 2020. She started out as a medical intuitive and has gone way beyond that. You may or may not be aware that Nikola Tesla had the ability, when he designed a complex machine, he could run it in his head and see where it would fail, where it would wear, and so on, and change the design and run it again. And only when he was satisfied that it would work as he wanted it to would he actually build it. And in a way, I'm not suggesting that Lorraine is a Nikola Tesla by any measure, but she sure has some of those skills, and I watched her at work. And so in that call, she said, if I hold a bottle of this product in my hand, I can see the DNA. I don't know what DNA is because I've never studied it, but I can see it, and I can see if there's any interference with the DNA, it's cleared. And if there's any errors in the DNA, they're corrected. Now, we already knew this. So she didn't know that we knew this, and she was describing this, amongst other things. But at the end, she quietly says, this particle does not come from here.
Wow.
But when you start to understand what it does when you put it in your body, you begin to understand that maybe there's some truth to what I say. And let me illustrate this. So far, there is literally no human health condition this has been tested against that it does not trigger the body to heal for itself. This product is not treating, healing, or curing anything. What it's doing is, you might say, reminding the body as to how it's really meant to work. You see, the natural polycosanol, which is in our unrefined food, quite commonly, Raghu says it's in all the sun-splashed areas of plants, and the common places to get it as an ingredient is unrefined raw sugar from sugarcane, or brown rice, or peanuts, or wheat, common sources. But it's really pretty widespread in our natural foods. And one of the things that gets removed when our food has been refined is polycosanol. And a small percentage of the polycosanol that's naturally available is actually in this nano form. So it's a natural nanoparticle.
Mhm.
And so it was whispering to our bodies when we ate unrefined foods. But then when our food got refined, it disappeared. And in my opinion, that's why we've seen this explosion in autoimmune diseases and allergies and so on. And now here we are post-jab, and it's turning up in all its power. In my opinion, there are no accidents in life in general, and the way this is turning up is absolutely no accident. It was long planned. And so, as I was saying before we started them.
Sorry, quick question.
What?
Are you saying that like what this thing that has been depleted in our health now is helping people who have gotten the jab, who are seeing a side effects of the jab, but because of the reintroduction of this critical substance, they are seeing improvement? Would you say that's accurate?
Let me say again, when you put this in the body, it triggers the body to heal and cure and clear anything that doesn't represent optimal health. It's truly profound. So the stuff that's in the jabs is not natural to the body. Well, guess what? When you use this, the body clears this for itself. And we have evidence of it. We have people who were literally at death's door after the jabs, hospitalized in some cases. A couple of weeks of using the product, they were back to perfect health.
Wow.
All of this stuff gets cleared out of the body. I tell you, it's no accident that it's shown up now post-jab. No accident. So it doesn't, we have the testimonials. We actually got a couple of trials being done to confirm this on levels, but we have testimonials from, for example, a guy in Canada decided to do this for himself. There's work that's been done with dark field microscopy that shows some pretty nasty stuff showing up in our blood after the jabs. And I have to say, concerningly, it's now showing up in the blood of everybody. In other words, whatever this stuff is, and some of it is self-assembling nanobots, this stuff is now getting delivered to all of us, whether we've been jabbed or not. I'm not saying everything that was delivered with the jabs is turning up. I'm simply saying this stuff that's turning up in dark field microscopy certainly is. And there's a guy in Canada who had not been jabbed, who was aware of all this stuff, and he knows someone as a dark field microscopist, and lo and behold, this stuff started to turn up in his blood. So he used nanosoma, it disappeared.
Wow.
And so he stopped using it for a while. Guess what? It came back. Started using it again, disappeared. I'll say it again. It's hard to get because we've been trained inside this allopathic system for the last 120 years. We've been taught that the dis-ease of the body is a disease. It's not. It's the body saying, hey, something's not right here. We need to take care of it.
Wow.
And the allopathic system says, well, that's a disease. We need to treat it this way. Or that one's a disease, and these are all the implications, and it's this chemical, and blah. And everybody gets engaged with all of this nonsense.
Yeah.
You put this in the body takes care of itself. Bingo. I have so many testimonials from people with so many issues. We're told that if you have a heart attack, the scarring of the heart muscle is there for life. Well, not if you use this product, it's not.
Wow.
I have testimonials from, a beautiful friend of mine whose father had advanced dementia, so bad that it hadn't got any worse the last 2 years. 5 sprays 3 times a day in his mouth. An MRI after a year showed that his brain had healed.
Wow.
And another year of use saw his cataracts healed. This man was in his 80s.
Wow.
I could go on. We've just been recording some testimonials from people we had testimonials from, but we wanted some video footage. And there's a beautiful testimonial from a woman who had multiple sclerosis. It actually got reasonably bad. She was on the point of having to, get a walker or whatever. She's got her health back.
Wow.
A few months of use, she's completely free of it. These
Wow.
so-called incurable diseases are no different from anything else.
Are we
One of
talking
the things that's
cancer?
interesting,
Is
sorry,
cancer a part of this too? Like, is people with that have cancer in their family? I mean, is this even that? Are we looking at like general better health across the board? I mean,
let
that's
let
like
me let me repeat what I said, because it's very hard to get, because we've been educated by the allopathic system to look at all these things in the way you are doing. This stuff triggers the body to heal and cure everything that does not represent optimal health.
wow.
Why would cancer be any different from that? And I know we're on a channel here where we can talk about this, but I've got many testimonials that relate to people recovering from this, including a man in India who was literally given hours to live. One of the doctors was aware of nanosoma, and what they gave him was 5 sprays 4 times a day and 10 sprays twice a day. Did they need to give him that much? I don't know. But the result was clear. Within a few weeks, he went home. He's in full remission. And they literally gave him hours to live. He lost 5 liters of fluid in the previous 24 hours. His body was shutting down.
Wow. You know,
He's got his life back.
you said something that I just got to address. You said that we're on a channel here where we could talk about this stuff. I mean, it seems as though this is this kind of information you're not going to find through mainstream circles, because it seems to go
Absolutely not.
completely against the mainstream, medical industrial complex, what they want, the
Totally.
fact that they, it's funny because a relative of mine recently had an ear infection, and they gave him a 2-week prescription at $350, by the way, for an ear infection. And I was like, man, like, I know for a fact there's got to be something for that. That is the holistic solution. That's probably $5, but they
I
want
would
to
put
this.
I would put some nanosoma in a spray bottle, and you
Mhm.
can use it for the eyes as well. And
Wow.
I'd put a drop in the ear or in both ears. Put a drop in lying on your side, leave it there for about a minute, turn over, put a drop in the other ear. I've
Mhm.
seen tinnitus disappear, including in my own case.
Wow.
Eye issues. It stings a bit when you put it in your eye, but it's not going to damage your eye.
Mm.
I've seen all manner of eye issues resolved in
Wow.
this way.
Are you
And
talking
you
about
can,
like if
you
you have
can,
bad eyesight too, or?
it depends. Some people have reported improvement in that way. Personally, I haven't seen a difference as yet, but we'll see.
Mhm.
And there's been evidence in some cases where individuals had lost their sight and recovered their sight as a result of using this.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. So I mean, it seems as though this is. I mean, it seems like a miracle. I hate saying the miracle cure thing, because there's been so many like infomercials where people claim to have a miracle cure for this or that. What I can tell you after 10 days of use, though, is I have a father who has a lot of health problems. My mom's also using it. I'm also using it. And I've seen a clear difference in terms of energy. I don't know why, but just in this last 10 days, I do work out a little bit, and I've just feeling more firm, feeling more healthy. In terms of my dad, definitely, he has low energy, and he hasn't had that much low energy since starting to use this product. So that's
So
the observations I've actually
it's
personally.
very common. A number of observations I'll make here. Firstly, it's very common for people to feel a significant boost in their energy almost from a moment they begin to use it. And the reason is, one of the first things that it addresses is the mitochondria in the cells, which transport energy and I believe nutrition into the cells. So if that's not working, the body's not working. It's one of the first things that gets addressed. So a boost in energy is very common. The other thing, in terms of your working out, I'm not a youngster, as you can tell, and I will tell you that my muscle strength has returned significantly as a result of this, because one of the things it's sorting out is the hormones in your body. So when you're an old bastard like me, you know, they're a bit depleted, let's say. It's one of the things that gets fixed.
Wow. How old
I
are
will
you?
also add,
How old are you?
how old am I? I'm 71.
Okay. Okay.
And I would also mention that this product actually reverses the aging process, which is of interest to some people. The guy that developed this is now 72, I think, and he's been using it for probably close to 15 years now. And the last time he had his metabolic age checked, it was 48. 2 years before, it was 52. In other words, his biological age, his metabolic age is running backwards.
Wow. Wow. Which tells you, I mean, a lot of the things that we've done are, it's probably like if we had followed this kind of mode of living, it seems as though we would all be there. But it's like, in a way, we're making up on a lot of damage that we've done that's self inflicted, that we were not even aware was self inflicted damage throughout the years.
That's true, and it's more than that. Um, I think what this is doing in this form really wasn't available to us in terms of, let's say, reversing the aging process, being able to live at an optimal age for a long period of time. I think that's going to be part of humanity's future. Living for several hundred years will become quite common.
Wow.
Um, but let me talk a little bit more about what this is doing. I will make a comment. You mentioned, um, forbidden things to talk about in a way. Most people are not aware that the treatment for cancer, the official ones of radiation and chemotherapy, were enshrined in legislation in the UK in 1939. Think about it.
Wow.
We haven't found a better way to deal with it since then. You've got to be kidding.
Mm-hmm.
There have been other ways all the way along, but many people have died because they were brave enough to bring alternatives into the world. It's not a
Mm-hmm.
good practice in the current world, but all of that's going to change and quite soon.
Yeah, yeah, we feel it too. I mean, we're
Um,
definitely going through a sea change. It's not coincidence that all these things are happening at the same time. I'm noticing people that follow certain modes of living, like what you're talking about, seeing significant improvements, and 50-year-olds feeling like they're 25-year-olds. So
yes,
it is a fascinating time.
yeah. Now let me talk a little bit more about the technical side of how this is working. We have 48 or 9 nuclear receptors in our cells. It's like the operating system of our body, if you will, the software of our bodies. And this little particle regulates all of them, turns them on and turns them off as needed. Nothing else does this. Some of them do have ways to be regulated, but most don't. Let's take the vitamin D receptor, which we all are aware of, and its role in our immunity. Um, Normally, vitamin D turns it on, and we have a great focus on our vitamin D levels to make sure that the receptor is being turned on. But if the vitamin D receptor is overactive, which can happen, and a good example of this is the so-called cytokine storms that we heard about in COVID times. To have a cytokine storm in the body, you need an overactive vitamin D receptor. This product will turn on the vitamin D receptor and turn it down or off if it's overactive. Vitamin D can do nothing about that. And so you cannot have a cytokine storm in your body if you're using this product. And I will say that the body actually uses this preferentially to activate the vitamin D receptor. It's a much older particle than vitamin D. It's inherently and implicitly known to our bodies. And so when you use this product, if you go and get your vitamin D levels checked, you'll find they're going up because the body's not using it. And it stores vitamin D it's not using. That's what gets measured. Vitamin D gets stored in the body. And so what you'll find and I've seen this many times when people, they go and get their vitamin D levels checked, they've gone up. You don't need vitamin D supplementation. You also don't need vitamin C. In fact, you don't need any supplements. That's a pretty extraordinary statement to make. But Raghu is very clear about it. And I'll explain why. Firstly, we also recognize that for our immune systems to work well, we need vitamin C. What hasn't been understood until this product turned up is that vitamin C is considered by the body to be an endogenous compound. An endogenous compound means it's one that expects to make itself. Now, how can that be when our bodies can't make it? Most animals can produce vitamin C in their livers. They have an active gene that does that. And so if they have some kind of health issue, their vitamin C levels can ramp way beyond what we can normally experience.
Mm-hmm.
And other animal, primates and guinea pigs have the same issue as we do. But what happens when you've got, sorry, just one more thing. When you take vitamin C, there's only a relatively low level compared with other animals that the body will tolerate from external vitamin C because it throws the rest away. It oxidizes it. But when you're using nanosoma, the body goes into a state called homeostasis, which is optimal balance. When it's in that state, there is a mechanism by which the body can take the oxidized vitamin C from our food and turn it back into vitamin C. Now, when it does that, it says, I know you. You're my vitamin C. It's endogenous. And when that happens, the body is able to, for itself, produce levels of vitamin C when needed that you can never get from supplementation.
Mm.
This has been documented. Papers, Roger's written papers on this, which documents this fact. Many, maybe 80 times the level of vitamin C in some cases than that was naturally there from supplementation, because the body expects to produce its own. A comparison with this is insulin, for example. If you need to take insulin for diabetic reasons, you need to take, as I understand it, 20 times the amount of insulin typically than the body uses itself to get the same result. Why? Somehow the body knows the difference between the insulin it produces and the stuff that comes in from outside. Nobody knows how. Chemically, they look the same, but the body knows the difference.
Wow. That's very interesting, actually.
So we didn't understand this until this product showed up. And this product demonstrated very clearly that the body considers vitamin C to be an endogenous compound.
Mm.
So just that alone, it's regulating the vitamin D receptor. So your vitamin D level becomes pretty irrelevant by and large because this product is dealing with it, and it's triggering the body to produce its own vitamin C. There's a reason to use it every day right there. But let's say you've got thyroid issues. There is a thyroid receptor, and if you've got hypothyroidism, it's underperforming. Hyper, it's overperforming. This product doesn't care because it regulates the vitamin D receptor, the thyroid receptor, and whatever way it is will get resolved. Thyroid issues go away.
Wow.
These are the kind of things that go on. As I said, it also produces a replica of the human genome, which means any errors in the DNA get corrected. Any contamination of the DNA gets cleared. mRNA vaccines, anyone?
Wow. What's crazy is that, for some people that haven't used this product, obviously I have. I mean, it basically just feels like water, right? And tells you something about simplicity. I mean, it just, for most people, this tastes like water with maybe a little bit of a taste. I know that taste is reflective of what I was being told before, that some of the chemicals and bad things we have within us, and as that stuff clears out, the taste basically turns just to basic water, right? But very simple.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Very simple.
I will say, I will say that for some people, the taste can be quite strong. The most common taste that people experience, a lot of people experience no taste, which is pretty much where you are, very slight taste. The taste is about the balance of your body. So it can taste bitter, it can taste like coconut, it can taste like soapy, and in some conditions it can taste like vomit, which ain't very nice. But that's a reflection of the state of the health of your body. It's not about the product. You use it for a while, the taste goes away.
So question. So if it's no taste, your body is pure. You got less dangerous stuff in there.
It's not. It's about the health, not necessarily contamination. Typically, so it's a reflection of the health issue, a state of your body. Gotcha. I will say, for example, if they've got bipolar, for example, I would not be, and probably autism and conditions like that, I would expect they're very likely to experience it tasting like vomit. I can't exactly explain why, but those kind of cases tend to find the taste very unpleasant. And so my advice in those circumstances is to put it into some juice or water and take it like that. You can't store it mixed with anything else.
Mm-hmm.
I will tell you, this product was actually described in the Indian spiritual text, the Rig Veda of 5600 BC.
Wow.
This is not new in a sense. Our ancestors knew about it. And what's interesting about that description is that in Sanskrit, there are apparently something like 280 words for water.
Wow.
And the word that's used to describe this product is the meltwater of Mount Kailash. Now, Mount Kailash is a mountain in Tibet, now China, but it's sacred to the Hindus, considered to be the earthly home of Shiva. You're not allowed to climb that mountain. You can walk around it. I know because I've done it, actually, intriguingly, 18 months before this product came into my life. There are no accidents in life.
Wow.
And so Raghu has found that actually there are other mountainous countries where you can get water to make it. Switzerland, Austria, Norway, New Zealand, you can get water to make it, but you can't use any old water. It doesn't work. The particle size clumps. This has a particle size of, 50 or 60 nanometers, plus or minus 1 nanometer. It's an incredibly narrow peak, and it's stable on the shelf so far in Switzerland for something like 13 years, maybe more now. So once you get it right, it stays right. But if you try and mix it with stuff, the particle size changes. We've had people show up saying, well, I love the idea of product. I've got this other thing over here that I'm selling or want to sell. I'd like to mix the two together and take them to market. Can't do it. Won't work.
Wow. You'd mentioned sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say it's got to be treated standalone.
Yeah. You'd mentioned autism. I have a quick question about autism. You know, a lot of parents that we've interviewed are concerned that basically farm school industry made their child autistic because of these vaccines, right? Have you seen anything in terms of autism and how it helps children with autism?
Again, I would come back to what this product is doing. It's hard to get. I get the question about every possible so-called allopathically defined disease or illness. Why would autism be any different? I'm satisfied that in most cases, at least, autism is a result of jabs, childhood jabs. And the parents of children, by and large, who got autism, they're taught to treat their child as something special. It's a gift from God. God help us. It's a gift from Big Pharma, by and large. I'm not saying there are not other cases, but there are plenty of documentaries out there that talk about this and interviews of parents who watch their children go from perfectly healthy, vital children to post, childhood jabs descend into autism literally overnight.
Wow.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
And it's no different from any other condition. Again, it's likely to taste unpleasant. So better to put it in juice or something as you give it to a autistic kid or, someone with those kinds of conditions, because they're likely to be reactive to it. And they're usually pretty sensitive about not consuming anything they don't like the taste of. They're pretty fussy like that.
Mm-hmm.
So stick it in some juice or whatever and do it that way. Don't store it in juice. Don't put some in a bottle and put it in the fridge for a couple of days, because the particle size will change. It becomes ineffective. But if you just put it in the juice and drink it, perfectly fine, or just in water, whatever.
Wow. So let's talk a little bit about price, price of the product, how often you have to take it, from what I understand, every day, and how long you have to take it.
So the single bottle price in the US for Nanosoma is $57. We have discounts for volume, and you can see those on our store, and the link that Ben will give you in due course. But it depends. Firstly, when you understand what I said about what it's doing in your body just around vitamin C and vitamin D, you realize that the very least you should do is 5 sprays once a day for the rest of your life. Why would you not? It's underpinning your fundamental health.
And
If you've
sorry,
got existing,
quick question. So one bottle is good enough for about a month or so? Is that accurate?
yes,
Okay, copy.
correct. But if you've got an existing health condition, I recommend to these days from experience that you should use 5 sprays 4 times a day until the condition is cleared. Now, is that overkill? For some people, it will be. But in my opinion, it's better to use a little more and make sure you get the job done than underuse it and not get it done. In the case of someone that's over 50, my advice is to use, when you start, if you're in good health, 5 sprays 4 times a day until you use up the first bottle, which will take about a week. Then 5 sprays twice a day until you use up the second bottle, take about 2 weeks, and then settle into 5 sprays once a day. But if you've got any existing health condition, my advice is to lock into 5 sprays 4 times a day until you see it cleared.
Okay.
And it varies. If you've got a chronic condition, you've had it for many years, Raghu says allow 2 weeks for every year that you've had the condition as a line in the sand. So if you've had, let's say, Parkinson's for 30 years, it's going to take a while.
Mm-hmm.
And so you need to allow that. But I will tell you, the body conducts a triage when you begin to use this. Whatever is life-threatening gets dealt with first. I've seen cases where people have had quite extreme blood sugar or quite extreme blood pressure literally get resolved overnight. But if it's not life-threatening, if it's a bit elevated, it can take 3 months, 6 months. Doesn't matter because it's not life-threatening. It'll get dealt with. Other things get dealt with first. I will tell you, there's a woman whose testimonial I read, and I really need to dig it out, but she'd had elevated blood sugar levels since the age of 8. I think she's now in, I think, about her mid-50s, and I think she'd lost a leg along the way. And as Raghu said, the blood sugar levels that she had, he was surprised she wasn't in a coma with the levels she had. She sprayed 5 sprays in her mouth, went to bed, got up in the morning, her blood sugar was normal. She'd never seen normal blood sugar in her life.
Wow.
Literally overnight. And so, it really is like that. When the situation is life-threatening, the results are spectacular. So I say to people, don't expect an overnight miracle. It can happen, but don't expect it. Don't plan on it. And that's one of the traps. People listen to this extraordinary story that I'm telling here, expect, a miracle by lunchtime tomorrow and can get upset when it doesn't happen, or they run into the taste and all these things. I have a video I put together that really explains it in a lot of detail and covers the usage things in quite some detail. Coming back to your father, Bam, I would recommend that you put him on 5 sprays 4 times a day until you see the health issues cleared for him.
Wow. This is amazing, Richard. Is there, it seems like we covered quite a bit. Is there anything we didn't discuss about this product that's important to mention before we wrap it up?
I could talk for several hours. There is so much to cover about this. This really is profound. The trouble people have with it is we've all been trained by the allopathic system. We've been taught that the dis-ease of the body is actually disease. And like, you asked about autism, does it treat this? Does it treat that? Does it treat something else? Let me say it again. This triggers the body to take care of itself in ways we never imagined. It triggers the body to heal, cure, and clear everything that does not represent optimal health. Some things very quickly, some things take a while. I will just mention the gel in passing, because one of the things that this particle does is trigger the body to clear all parasitic viruses, fungi, yeast, and bacteria. So if you've got a wound, for example, you put this on, it will disinfect the wound. And secondly, one of the things I didn't mention is that when you put this in with fibroblast cells, which are a common cell in the body that doesn't do much most of the time, people haven't understood why it's there. It turns up in wounds, it plays a role in wound healing. Apart from that, doesn't do much, except when you're using this product. When you put nanosoma with fibroblast cells at picogram concentrations, which is homeopathic, suddenly those cells display all of the nuclear receptors that weren't there before, which means these are turning into pluripotent stem cells all over the body. Is it any wonder the body heals? And so if you've got a wound, it disinfects the wound and then produces pluripotent stem cells in the wound. It heals incredibly quickly, profoundly, rapidly. Insect bites, any kind of skin afflictions of any type. Put this on. You know, I have a gel on my desk, everywhere in my car. It's like a first aid kit in a bottle. It's that extraordinary.
Wow.
So I'm done. Bam, thank you.
It's amazing, you know, the kind of relearning this paradigm. You know, I did keep asking those questions because you're right. With the current medical system, that's what we're so used to, that we don't believe that cure all for anything. But then you research the current medical system, you realize that moneyed interests kind of back this into this petroleum-based system. And there's so much better stuff out there. And I could tell the viewers, I mean, I've talked about this over and over again. The minute I left that world and actually started listening to some of our frontline doctors that are like, hey, you know, why don't you take X, Y, and Z? Like one of the things that I got used to taking is NAC, right? Because it helps with people shedding and you taking in some of that shedding from the COVID vaccine. I'm not vaccinated personally, but that became a concern, you know, and little steps like that on my journey that opened my eyes, right? And then, you know, 10 days into using this product, and again, I was told I got to go through 90 days, right? But I could say that within 10 days, I've already noticed a significant difference. My father's noticed a significant difference. My mom, actually, who I didn't talk about much, she's saying her energy is amazing. I mean, this is an 81 and a 76-year-old individuals. And, you know, unfortunately, they did get vaxxed. And so while, you know, I got to say, I've been, you know, maintaining a pure health, just being careful for quite a while now. With them, that's not the case. And so I thought to myself, hey, maybe I could be going through some placebo, feeling more energetic and stuff. But looking at them, they don't even have the energy to have that placebo. You know what I mean? So all of a sudden they do have energy, and it is definitely a very impressive product. And frankly, I can't wait. I know we have another interview scheduled about a month from now. I can't wait till we do that because I'm pretty optimistic that I'm going to have some good news to report beyond this short 10-day trial that we've done thus far.
Fantastic. Very good. I will just make one comment about, you know, the allopathic medical system. Some people refer to it as the Rockefeller medical system, and for good reason, because it was really created by John D. Rockefeller in the early part of the last century, because he was looking for other uses of his oil. And some of the research turned up the early pharmaceuticals in Germany made from tar sands. He thought, that sounds like a good business to be in. He created the allopathic medical system to sell pharmaceuticals. What does it do? Guess what? And in most countries of the world, allopathic medical doctors are forbidden for prescribing anything other than pharmaceuticals.
Wow.
Why? There's the answer.
Yeah. And for those that
are not aware of this history.
Yeah, for those that don't know John D. Rockefeller, I mean, the guy was around 100-something years ago. Similar to Bill Gates, wouldn't you say? So if you think Bill Gates is a cool guy, you're definitely going to think John D. Rockefeller is a cool guy. And if you don't like Bill Gates, chances are that you are going to have equal disdain for John D. Rockefeller, because it's just it seems like some of these individuals that feel like they have domain over our sovereignty of our health, and you know, they got this whole kind of authoritarian design where, you know, most of us, you know, we the people, we're just looking to be in good health and happy and be left alone, you know.
Then we are living through the time when all of that is going to change. Those dark forces that run our world and have for a long time are being cleared away. Trust me.
Oh, from your mouth to God's ears, sir. That's what we do. On Blood Money, we're all about clearing out, the scumbaggery of this world. Sorry, I had to say scumbaggery.
It's it's
Yeah,
okay. It's on its way out. I do know a lot about how our world works and for
yeah,
what purpose. I'm happy to talk to you about that on another time, another thread, whatever. But
yeah.
I'm very I with my crazy journey. I was prompted maybe about 2010 to begin to look at how the world
Hmm.
works. And for what purpose. And I studied it pretty extensively for a bunch of years, and I haven't really looked at it in earnest since about 2017. But the statement I make these days is if you take everything that you've been taught or told as being a lie, you'll be standing closer to the truth than if you believed it. And
Exactly.
my simple illustration is the sinking of the Titanic
Hmm.
in whatever it was, 1910. There's just one little problem with that story. It wasn't the Titanic that sank. It was its sister ship, the Olympic, which had been in two accidents. The first one they fixed and insured. And as part of the first fix, they installed an additional bulkhead in the ship. The second time it got pranged, they couldn't get it reinsured. So they pulled off an insurance scam, switched the ships, and ran the Olympic into an iceberg. There was a ship standing by to pick up everybody, but the signaling in those days was pretty poor, and they didn't get the alert in time, which meant some people drowned. But
Mm.
what's interesting is the wreck has the additional bulkhead that was installed in the Olympic. This has
Wow.
been documented in a documentary that used to be available on YouTube documentary in the UK. You could watch it if you knew
Yeah.
where to look.
Yeah.
But our world is like that all over the place, and most people don't have a clue. So I love that illustration because people go, "You're kidding me."
Yeah, yeah, I've heard that story. I've heard that story, and it's a coincidence that all the individuals that would have really, or a lot of the individuals that will really fight the Federal Reserve System, which has been definitely helping to promote some of these corrupt systems, these corrupt industrial complexes. Those individuals happen to be on the Titanic and drowned. That's interesting too. I don't know if there's a big conspiracy there, but just an interesting little factoid.
Yeah, I think that's there may have been some correlation. I can't say for sure, but
Yeah.
certainly, the Federal Reserve is nothing to do. It's a private central bank,
Hmm.
as are the central banks across the world, primarily driven by the Rothschilds,
Hmm.
who in essence run our world along with their friends, and they're hidden. People talk about the victors writing the history. Well, yes, they do, but they write themselves out of it.
Hmm. Hmm.
The people that really win every time around are not to be found in history.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Yeah.
I'm taking you off track a little, sir.
No, no, this is good. This is stuff we talk about on Blood Money. I just want the viewer to remember we're going to have links for this miraculous product below. Make sure you check out the links. Make sure, give it a try. Please give it a try. Your paradigm is going to change. Will likely not even take 90 days. It happened to me after 7 days, but very important product to check out. So we will have all the links below as well as some more information. Richard, any last words before we wrap it up?
Um, uh, I am just grateful for you making the time to give me the opportunity to share this with your audience. It's truly profound, and may all of your listeners embrace this and get the benefits that it brings
Awesome.
when you use it.
Thank you. By the way, do you have a bird back there somewhere?
I do actually. My beautiful Brazilian wife feeds the local bird population, so we have a menagerie that parks at the back door, and she feeds them pigeons,
Cool.
and noisy miners. They're called a beautiful little bird called a butcher bird that the family come and sing incredible songs, magpies, crows. They all turn up at the back door for Gilda to feed them. And at night, it's the possums.
No, very cool. Very cool. Wow. Seems like a Garden of Eden out there. Well, thank you for the viewers for joining us for this very special Blood Money episode. Again, Magic Die Call, links will be below. And please, stay in touch. As you take this product, tell us what's going on. You could always email us at americahappens@protonmail.com. We will be happy to pass it off to Richard. And again, thank you so much for showing up for this Blood Money episode. I will see you on the next episode.